foundation of an independent legal system in India was laid in 1949. Since then, there have been multiple changes and amendments in the laws. While many laws have been amended over decades to keep up with the times, there are many even today which are yet to be fine-tuned to improve the society and the social structure we live in. India also lacks a central ecosystem which serves as a one-stop shop for everything legal, such like an authorized legal database that can be created so that data of all the courts, tribunals, committees, articles, acts, all of that can be digitally stored. Well, this is where technology becomes indispensable. Technology can help harness the vast swaths of legal data available in the country. And it is only through technology that this gold mine of information can be harnessed to make legal research faster to benefit the fraternity. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the first ever edition of Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 in association with Legitquest. Forbes India has joined hands with Legitquest, India's highly efficient AI-based legal research database that has become a one-stop solution for the legal fraternity. For the Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020, the first edition of the Legal Powerlist 2020 aims to identify and felicitate lawyers, law firms, law schools who exemplify distinction, quality service, delivery, and demonstrate superior leadership reputation in the Indian legal system. While keeping the safety of our viewers and guests in mind, this flagship Powerlist event is being held virtually this year, and we thank you all for being a part of it. In the 21st century, as India continues to face a booming population, a growing economy, an ever-increasing legal backlog, technology is the only answer. It's the only way to create an authorized legal database for digitally storing data from all the courts, tribunals, committees, articles, and acts in order to transform the legal research by making it much faster, efficient, and accessible. Well, to kickstart the proceedings of the evening, I'd like to invite Brian Carvalho, the group editor of Forbes India, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, Brian.
Good evening to all and welcome to the Forbes India Legitquest Legal Powerlist 2020 finale. As I was preparing this welcome address, a line from a movie from the 90s flashed in my head. The movie is The Devil's Advocate, which starred Keanu Reeves as Kevin Lomax, a cocky lawyer who's never lost a case. The line that came to my mind is one that Lomax delivers to his boss, the diabolical John Milton, played by Al Pacino. I won't attempt to emulate Reeves's histrionic dialogue delivery, but here's the line. Lose? I don't lose. I win. I win. I'm a lawyer. That's my job. That's what I do. Today, as I welcome you to the Legal Powerlist finale, it's that dialogue that refuses to leave me. After all, this evening is about the legal fraternity, and it's also about winning. As Anusha put it so well, the Legal Powerlist 2020 aims to identify and felicitate lawyers, law firms, and law schools, people and institutions that exemplify quality service delivery and demonstrate superior leadership and reputation in the Indian legal system. Today, we will announce winners from 6 categories and 40 practice areas. These winners have been chosen by a stellar jury. They have been chosen from the over 900 entries we've received since November. We had over 400 entries from individual lawyers, and it was after 3 rounds of jury deliberation that we came down to the final 100. The jury comprises former Supreme Court judges and senior Supreme Court lawyers, among others. And in between announcing the winners this evening, we will witness stimulating discussions and special addresses from India's top legal luminaries. So sit back and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brian. Those were some key insights. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 is divided into 6 categories. Top law schools, top law firms, top general counsel, top in-house counsels, and top managing partner, top individual lawyers, and 40 subcategories, practice areas for lawyers, including a separate listing of lawyers with less than 10 years of experience from various private and public institutions drawn from different sectors in India, being nominated, shortlisted through a stringent jury process, and are going to be felicitated today. But before we proceed further and start revealing those winner lists, we have with us a panel of eminent stalwarts from the legal fraternity who are going to discuss the overview of Indian legal system, the current state, the reforms which are required in the judicial system, and the evolution of this system over the years, the state of lawyers, the role of technology in creating an authorized legal database that persistently updates, refines itself with constant use. In a special discussion titled India's Judicial System and the Role of Technology, Maha Siddiqui of Network 18 is going to moderate it. It's over to you, Maha.
Thank you very much. Hello and a very warm welcome to our discussion where we will deliberate on India's judicial system and the role of technology. Joining me on this conversation are some very esteemed members of the Indian legal fraternity. I have with me R. Venkatramani, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India and member of the Law Commission of India. Dr. Menaka Guruswamy, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Sajjan Poovaiya, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. Siddharth Luthra, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India. A very warm welcome to all our panelists for this discussion. If I may start with you, Mr. Venkatramani, I want to understand from you the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has had on the legal fraternity and the delivery of justice in India. It's been a very difficult phase, the phase of the pandemic, for the country at large.
The way it is structured today, the way it operates, and the way different hierarchies of the profession, people nurture themselves in many ways. I think a lot of lessons to be learned. And what we have been only trying to do is to reach out to the unfortunate ones by collecting money through the bar associations and asking some such very nominal mitigating measures to be undertaken. If COVID has brought some lessons, it has lessons about human nature, it has lessons about the way systems function at the most weakest and the deficient times when challenges are unprecedented. That's what probably I would like to say at this point of time.
Dr. Guruswamy, what we've seen in the education sector was that despite the fact that during the COVID-19 pandemic, education continued because of access to technology, but the class differences and the rural-urban divide became even more aggravated in the COVID situation as far as education sector is concerned. Was there a parallel that you could draw with the legal fraternity on how COVID impacted, despite technology, cases which were emanating from rural India vis-a-vis urban India?
Sure, and I think that's a very good question. So thank you for that. There is a parliamentary committee report which actually presented its findings in September 2020. So actually very, very timely. And the parliamentary committee report made 3 points, right? That there was an access differential, there was an infrastructure differential, and there was a knowledge differential. Meaning that there would be great disparity between those who had access to infrastructure like computers, internet, all the various things you need to ensure access to virtual courts digitally. There was a knowledge differential. Folks, some of them would know how to use this technology and others wouldn't. So much of this would depend on your internet connectivity. The broad coverage in India of internet connectivity is between 3 to 28%, 28% being the upper. Cities like Delhi, Mumbai are at the 28% zone. The Northeast is lower end. Within that, there's a rural-urban divide. So much of this, these are the statistics of a big country with vast inequalities like India, inequality both of income and infrastructure. So these are the challenges that even the parliamentary committee thought needed to be, to kind of be factored in. And I think what is really interesting is that we have had a lot of thinking by the state on how to make the courts more tech friendly. So there is a portioning of money that has been done, 1,600 crores. There have been, data centers that were meant to be set up in various district courts. And this is an ongoing project, but I think the one thing that is very, very true in India is that it is the differential reach of infrastructure and knowledge that will make a huge difference vis-a-vis technology and courts.
Under such circumstances, Siddharth Luthra, I want to come to you now. do you even see technology being the future in India to deliver justice? Or do you think this was only a stopgap arrangement during the COVID times? And as far as hearings are concerned, technology won't be of much help, or will it?
There are two sets of proceedings we're looking at, appellate and original. Original are trials. Now, trials get a little more tricky because you have to have witness examination, and the Delhi High Court illustratively came out with rules to ensure that witness could be examined at remote locations that would be secure. So that's definitely the way forward. I'll tell you two things about technology, and I concur with the speakers before me, both Menika and Ms. Venkatramani. It's really had an adverse impact on access to justice, especially beyond the metros. In the early parts, the Supreme Court was struggling to do 10-15 matters. I remember the first case I did on the first anticipatory bail granted on WhatsApp versus the case I appeared. So that's what we had to do because the systems both at their end and our end failed. We've come a long way since then. So the important part to understand is, and I hope, that for a class of proceedings, VC is here to stay because VC empowers you. Let's look at two things. We have a Supreme Court only in Delhi. Traditionally, the filing that has happened is about 40% of filing happens in the states, Delhi and the states around Delhi. Today, that's changing. A litigant sitting in the southernmost corner of India, the northernmost or the east or the west, can see his proceeding, he can have a lawyer attend, and most important, the cost to client has substantially fallen.
With that, I'd like to go across to Sajjan Povaiya. Sajjan, the fact that Siddharth is mentioning how technology has helped in delivery of justice, would you concur with that? And would you also then have some more suggestions for the legal fraternity in being able to adopt technology faster? Because some other sectors seem to have done it more easily. And especially, as far as infrastructure is concerned, in tier 2 cities, say, for example, does that remain a problem area?
I come from a very remote area in the country called Lokur. It's in the hills, with little or no. There is, of course, economic development there, but little or no internet penetration. And therefore, if you look at what has happened, nobody really was geared up for the pandemic, right? But however, given what the pandemic, brought to the table, I think the legal profession and the judiciary in this country, of course, I think worked brilliantly to make sure that as much of technology is adopted and as seamlessly as possible work goes on. However, now, whilst on the positive end, you've seen that the Supreme Court of India and various high courts and the various national tribunals have done a stellar job with imbibing technology and making sure that access to justice continued despite the pandemic. Unfortunately, it did not trickle down to the trial courts. When I say trial, I mean the district courts, the tehsils, the talukas, the sub-judges, etc. Now, the meat of the matter for us in terms of justice delivery is in the trial courts in this country and not really in the appellate courts. Whilst we have used video conferencing technology to the maximum possible extent within the pandemic matrix to make sure access to justice works, we've really done little or no work in terms of the digitization of court records and using technology to make sure that filings become seamless. Particularly, let's say, bail or urgent interlocutory matters in the trial courts. I think the lesson is that we need not really run back to physical courts as if there is no tomorrow. Although we have imbibed technology and worked very well in very large final hearings during the pandemic, there seems to my mind and what I see around, there seems to be an urgency now to saying, we need to get back to physical courts. The physical courts are be all and end all. I think that's the mistake. We need to learn, whilst physical courts cannot be substituted with e-courts, etc., but to have this hybrid model is a learning experience and we need to adopt that hybrid model. Unfortunately, I see a tendency of people wanting to run back to the physical domain. That, I think, is the trigger point for some debate.
Mr. Venkatramani, in that context, that brings us to the question that while some cases may be easy to hear online through digital or technology means, but certainly there are some cases which would continue to require physical presence of people. Would you agree that in some cases technology might not be as valuable as the price we are placing on it currently?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that question because one of the nagging issues which keep coming to our mind, the litigation model based on an adversarial system with a physical space, the court as a physical space, and actors operating in the physical space, as long as that continues, every limb of the system would require a physical dimension. And we need to operate within the physical dimension, as long as we continue with that. So if we keep moving away from that system, we need to put in position a variety of substitutes where technology may play a role, but I'm not very sure. Even you look at some of the literature being written primarily in England, an author named Richard Susskind talks about technology as the only way forward to administration of justice. I have my serious doubts, because unless there is a paradigm shift in every dimension of administration of justice, from the physical space where things can happen exclusively within the physical space, as long as that paradigm continues, I don't think by a minimal intervention of technology, we can really make administration of justice work.
Documentation is certainly something that is very important, and technology might help, or rather will help in that direction. But I'm just thinking aloud, Dr. Guruswamy, there have been so many cases recently of hacking, and these have been in the healthcare sector as well, that we have seen trying to sabotage vaccine manufacturing. Now, why would we not imagine that something like this could happen in the legal system as well, and that would have serious ramifications, wouldn't it? How do you safeguard that aspect?
I think, again, that's very important, because there are these concerns, right? Now, there are a couple of things we have to understand about the court process, right? The courtroom is a public space. Court documents are invariably, in general, public documents. There are mechanisms that you can enforce to make sure that technology is a lot safer. For instance, you don't want people bombing your hearing, right? So that can be password protected. But in general, the primary character of courtrooms are public forum, right? I mean, you may sort of, control the crowd vis-a-vis numbers, but the idea of the adversarial trial system is that its fairness is based on process, but its fairness is also based on openness, that citizens can, in fact, access the courtroom. That is its accountability check. So there is rarely, right? The average case in India is a property dispute, followed closely by a theft case, and then a traffic violation. I mean, these are the conventional cases that permeate the system. The industrial trade secret kind of case is a rare case, right? So invariably, there is not very much to be lost by virtue of trade secrets or anything that is so spectacularly and it needs that kind of confidentiality, right? You don't want institutions like the court and the judiciary and the bar to be steeped in secrecy. If anything, live streaming, YouTubing, taping, transcripts are all good things for dispensation of justice.
Siddharth Luthra, I think you did mention the aspect of pendency of cases. It's huge in India. Technology will come in handy to expedite the process of delivery of justice, do you believe?
Technology's great boon is the ability to reduce procedural delays. So one of the chronic issues we have is, number one, the issuance, the service of summons. If you can have electronic service of summons, today everything is working on mobile phones and a lot of people are empowered. WhatsApp, communication, other means of communication, messaging. So that's the great boon. Because service of summons is one of the, it's traditionally done physically or by post, by sending somebody to serve the person at their residence. And people today are on the move all the time. So that's the one part. The second part is the acquisition of record. Dr. Guruswamy said this is a public space. Well, when we would have to have access to records, we'd have to move a formal inspection, go to court, get the file out, look at it, make notes in pencil. Today, the advantage in doing a criminal appeal, and I foray into criminal appeals quite often, at least in a lot of the high courts, today you get the entire trial court record, which is available with the court on a pen drive. And in the Legal Services Committee, we made a mechanism that all these records will be transmitted from the trial courts to the legal aid lawyer. So the legal aid lawyer also has this record on a pen drive if he or she so desires. So that's the use of technology. Addressing of procedural delays is something technology can do beautifully. So we can't lose this moment of change in our evolution.
Sajjan Purvaiya, in that case, do you think the younger lot who are technologically or technology natives, as one would call them, do you think that they will be able to hasten this process? And what would your advice be to the younger lot then?
No, I think absolutely. You I think hit the nail on the head. Please look at what technology has done to the older generation of lawyers. And now I will just look at lawyers and not really access to justice from a client or citizen perspective, but just as lawyers in this profession. Just see what technology has done to the older generation of lawyers and what it is doing to the younger generation. The older generation of lawyers found it a little difficult to adapt to technology, but they of course learned very quickly. And as Mr. Luthra said, there are hearings going on in multiple courts. Senior advocates are appearing in multiple high courts and the Supreme Court on the very day at a fraction of the cost, of course, bringing therefore access to justice to the client. But come to think of it from the younger generation, I think the COVID pandemic has had a silver lining for them. For one, brilliant lawyers sitting in various parts of the country have had the opportunity to appear in high courts across the country and in the Supreme Court simply because virtual hearings became a reality, number one. Number two, legal research, drafting, filing, etc. on an online mode or electronic mode is far more easily done by the younger lot as compared to the older lot. We need to celebrate this and not really look at it as a situation that we actually, jumped the curve in terms of the virus and met the pandemic by virtue of these hearings. It's not at all. This is a positive indicator, and the sooner we learn from it, the better it is for the legal profession and for the younger members of the bar.
So let me again go back to Mr. Venkatramani. Sir, how important is it for lawyers, law firms and counsels to be recognized for the work that they are putting in, for the effort that they are undertaking, and especially in the context of the Legal Powerlist 2020?
The modules of recognition have been so far very conservative. Local or other social contacts, word of mouth. I welcome this, but I suppose there are too many threshold questions we are trying to solve. Because one is an ethical question as to those who do not get into this whole process of recognition for a variety of reasons. And it does not mean that they are not able to recognize and they have no claim for recognition. For those who would like to be recognized because this has a certain professional appeal and also an importance, not only for the purpose of going up in the ladder, but for the purpose of also having a great feeling that you have been recognized for the work you have done. I welcome this, but I said there are a number of questions involved in it.
Dr. Kuruswamy, what are the features that define a good law firm, especially in the context of the Legal Powerlist 2020 that we're talking about?
The palette of work, the scale of the case, the diversity of practice, and how thoughtfully both younger lawyers as well as older lawyers wrote about their individual practices. All 15 members of the jury were looking and have been and will continue looking at all of the applications before we break out into smaller groups to focus more closely on specific issues. So really we hope and we're very committed to the process being thoughtful, being rigorous, being fair, being ethical, and also I think looking at all of these applications, certainly the individual lawyers, we've really learned a lot about our own profession and our peers and our colleagues at the bar.
The next question is for Sajjan Purvaiya. Sajjan, the Powerlist 2020 also has a category for law schools. What, according to you, are the necessary attributes of a good law school?
There are 3 or 4 indicators to my mind which will actually define a law school. One, that you need a great mentor. The national law schools became what they did because courtesy Dr. Madan being that mentor. Second, you need fantastic infrastructure. I don't think many law schools in this country can boast of that fantastic infrastructure. And when I mean infrastructure, I just don't mean hard infrastructure in terms of land and buildings. I also mean soft infrastructure in terms of its processes, in terms of technology that is brought to bear in education. And third, most importantly of all, is I think to have a brilliant amalgam of faculty. I think it's the academia which actually will pull a law school up in terms of its threshold. There is no dearth in this country for smart young minds getting into law school. The important aspect for law school is just not to teach legal education as a known art or even a science in terms of saying this is what you should know. The most important aspect, I think, for a law school is to build vision, to make sure that you change the character and personalities of children who get in, not just teach them some law.
And the final question is to Siddharth Luthra. Siddharth, what have been the selection criteria and jury process for the selected nominees?
We really need to reach out to those hidden stars who are efficient, who are competent, who are world class. And the selection is to try and get people to ensure that the 20 odd jury members sit together, analyze, mark their top hundreds, and after that marking is done, then we collate the data to see who are the ones who are going to be really taken up for these awards. Because our belief and our desire is that of those who have applied this year and next year, we've had a substantial number of applications, and next year I'm hopeful it'll be many more. We try and recognize those who need real recognition for work which is being done but is not shown up, because eventually quality must show up, and that's what will give due recognition to them, due recognition to certain subspecialties and specialties, and due recognition to the legal profession for the services it delivers.
With that, we are wrapping up this discussion. Many thanks to all four of our panelists for that insightful conversation and for their suggestions in this rapidly evolving scenario of virtual courtrooms and how they could be improved in the future.
Thank you, panelists and Ma, for that intriguing conversation on the future of justice system in India. It's now time to honor excellence in legal sector. 6 categories will be announced this evening, and the winners have been selected by a formidable jury that comprises of former Supreme Court judges, senior Supreme Court lawyers, bigwigs from the institutions and the legal sectors. The first category for tonight is the top law schools list. Well, law schools are pivotal. They are the pivotal institutions that nurture the country's subsequent generation of lawyers and thus shape the future of the legal profession in this country. Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 recognizes the law schools that are most efficaciously training students to be zealous lawyers and outstanding professionals. I now announce the top law schools list open, and here are the shortlisted winners. Well, congratulations to all the winners, and moving on to our next category is the top law firms. While an efficient law firm not only provides relief to its clients, but also an adequate consolidation of an organized professional apparatus, a sagacious leadership, a proficient workforce, and a decorous work ethic. Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 recognizes outstanding performance by the Indian law firms. It's now time to announce the winners of the top law firms. Here is the list of shortlisted top law firms for this year. It is the stakeholders of our legal fraternity that uphold the law of the land to maintain the faith in the Indian legal system and a strong civil society as defined by the much revered Indian Constitution. It is to felicitate such individuals of the legal system that Forbes India and Legitquest have joined hands for the Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to invite Justice Arjun Kumar Sikri, International Judge, Singapore International Commercial Court and former Judge of the Supreme Court of India, to deliver a special address.
We have reached at the stage of conclusion of this grand award ceremony. All those who deserve this award have been facilitated. And at this finale, I'm here on behalf of the entire jury, which undertake this task of selecting these persons who have been awarded today. And in front of you, I want to say a few things about this entire exercise which was undertaken. First, let us begin from the beginning. Why these awards? Why we thought of felicitating members of legal fraternity? If I may say in a lighter way, that look, such kinds of awards are there in every sphere, be it film industry or be it even if you say as far as colleges are concerned, various disciplines, various universities, they are also ranked every year and are awarded like that. And this doesn't happen only in India, but it's a universal phenomena which is prevalent throughout the world. Question was why it should not be in the case of lawyers as well. Why we should not choose the top lawyers of this country. And if I may say so, importance which has been given now is because of the landscape, legal landscape, which has acquired or accumulated such kind of significance in last few years. If you notice, about 15 or 20 years ago, in newspapers or even in media, there were hardly any news about the courts. But nowadays, you pick any newspaper and you will find 2 or 3 or even 4 pages are filled with legal news. Why it is becoming important? If I may say so, the justice is a virtue. It is enshrined in our constitution as well. That the preamble to the constitution says that this republic is constituted, that is Republic of India, to give or to, if I may use the exact words, to secure to all citizens justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. So justice is the first hallmark. And access to justice also becomes very important. But then who plays this role? It's not only the judges who give the justice. It's the lawyers as well who play equally important role in the whole process. It is they who bring causes before the courts, which the court ultimately decide and do justice to the millions of the people in this country. So therefore, the role of this legal fraternity cannot be undermined. With the it is this central role which is played by the lawyers which calls for such a recognition. And it is keeping in view this ethos, this spirit, it was decided that we should come with the list of those lawyers who have really done the tremendous work and contributed a lot in last 1 year. The period which was chosen was 2019 to 2020 for this purpose. I may say so, profession is in law is not a commercial venture for accumulation of wealth. Law, in a sense, is service oriented. It's a noble profession. As a very great scholar, Roscoe Pound from America, he has said, historically, there are three ideas involved in a profession: organization, learning, and the spirit of public service. These are essential. The remaining idea, that is of gaining a livelihood, is only incidental. So we had in mind this criteria, this consideration as to who are the persons who are service oriented in this noble profession, and they have achieved in this profession or in an organization with a spirit of public service. With that, of course, entries were invited from various persons. Let me say at the outset that we had the task of choosing the persons, those who had submitted their applications. So there may be umpteen number of lawyers who may be better than the lawyers which we have chosen, and they are the stalwarts in the legal system or legal fraternity, but remained excluded only because of want of their application. We have thought of this, and I think we will, this is one, I may say, drawback of this year, and there should be some amendment in the rules that the jury is given discretion to even nominate or include those persons in the list who have not come forward and who have not applied, because many would not apply. Having said so, insofar as the applicants were concerned, let me only tell you the evaluation process, just to give a message that it was a total objective criteria with transparency, and because of that, the jury members, they were drawn from all the segments. We had retired judges, we had celebrated lawyers, and we also have persons from academia, the renowned professors who constituted the jury. We had received more than 400 applications. The applications were assigned to all jury members for their perusal. Every member, the jury members were divided in 3 groups to carry the discussions on that applications, and those 3 groups gave every individual gave the marks to each of the candidate, which were on certain parameters which were laid down, and on the basis of those marks, then these were average was drawn, and on that basis we have selected the persons. And of course, there were 2 categories: above 10 years and below 10 years. We wanted to give due recognition to those below 10 years is very less period insofar as legal profession is concerned, but we wanted to give recognition to those budding lawyers also, who may prove to be the asset to this legal profession in future. So therefore, this category of below 10 years was also thought of, and this evaluation process, which was as I already told you, the period which was chosen was April 2019 to September 2020. So therefore, in this 1 year, if a person or a lawyer has performed well, irrespective of how many years he has put in profession, he or she should be entitled to recognition. That was the purpose. So this is what we have done. Yes, it was the first edition of these awards. We may like to continue in future years also. We have learned a lot from the first exercise which we have undertaken, and we will try to improve further, and when we see you next year. With this, let me congratulate all those persons who have been able to make to this list and who have received these awards today. And I may also give the message to those who have not been able to make their entry into this list, that look, keep working hard, and if not this year, you may find your place in next year. I may only end up with what a renowned lawyer Ram Jethmalani had said to the students in one of the moot court functions at his valedictory address. So while congratulating those who had won the awards, he said that winning is like marriage, and marriage is the end of romance. So those who have not won today should not feel disheartened, because for them romance continues. So your romance with this profession should continue with that spirit. Please keep working. Thank you very much to all of you for this successful event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justice Sikri, for those kind words. Moving on to our next category, Top General Counsel. While a General Counsel is more than just a lawyer, with the significant responsibilities of acting as the legal representative and also providing legal and commercial advice on a host of wide-ranging issues, a General Counsel or a legal head adds a lot of value to an organization. Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 recognizes the best in-house performance and leadership of General Counsels, legal heads and chief legal officers. Well, it's now time to reveal the suspense and unveil the shortlisted names for Top General Counsel. Here's the list of winners. Congratulations. Our next category is the top in-house lawyers. Well, they are the lawyers which not only provide legal advice to their organization, but also influence crucial business decisions with their expertise. Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 recognizes outstanding performance by individual lawyers working in-house, including corporate and public sector lawyers. And here is the list of all the winners of the top in-house lawyers category. Congratulations to each one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020, instituted by Forbes India along with Legitquest, is our endeavor to honor the best luminaries from the Indian legal sector. Our next speaker is a judge of Supreme Court of Fiji and also a former judge of Supreme Court of India, Justice Madan B. Lokur. Over to you, sir.
Let me begin by congratulating Forbes and Legitquest for this initiative that they have taken, which I'm sure will be welcomed by everybody. I look at it really as a celebration for lawyers, not something which will grade lawyers one way or the other, but as a celebration and as an encouragement to those who have done well. Of course, there are some obvious choices that would have been left out, but then they are left out because they are obvious choices. The idea really is to encourage others who are trying to make a name for themselves, either individuals or as law firms, and get into the thick of things, so to speak. This is necessary, I think, to encourage lawyers because we are now passing through a very critical stage of our justice delivery. The pandemic has really hit us very hard and has made justice delivery somewhat of a problem in the sense that not everybody has access to justice. There are a large number of people, particularly in the districts and in some of the rural areas, who have not had access to justice only because they do not have access to the internet and are unable to contact the registry of the court so that their cases can be heard. This is really unfortunate, and I'm sure lawyers have been making efforts to assist these kind of litigants to access justice through the courts. It's a difficult task, I appreciate that, and it requires a lot of effort. But having said that, I think we need to look at the future, because the way things are, it appears that the pandemic is not going to go away. So, really, these lawyers who are participants in today's function, and others who are, like I said, obvious choices, or several others who have not had the opportunity of participating in today's program, must make efforts to ensure that justice is delivered to everybody. It's one of the important aspects of our rule of law. It's one of the important aspects of our life. And unless justice is made available to everybody at an affordable price and expeditiously, we are going to land up in trouble sooner or later. So let's look at it in a positive manner. And I'm sure all those who are represented today will continue their efforts and will make improvements in their functioning, in their efficiency, so that not only are we in a position to give access to justice to people in this country, but we are in a position to challenge lawyers and other paralegals from other parts of the world as well. We all know that, particularly in the field of arbitration, for example, or in some other specialized fields like maritime law and so on, we tend to depend upon lawyers from other countries. We tend to depend upon arbitrators or judges from other countries. But really, we have to now think in terms of going global in our legal profession. By stopping the entry of foreign lawyers into India, we will not necessarily improve our functioning. What we have to do is to get into a situation where we are in a position to challenge foreign lawyers in their own territory. And that can be possible only if we sort of pull up our socks and realize that we are dealing not only with the people of India who deserve access to justice, but we are also dealing with people in different parts of the world who also need access to justice. So, with this view in mind, I think Legitquest has done a wonderful job, along with Forbes, of course, and both of them can perhaps spread the message of access to justice, affordable access to justice, expeditious access to justice for everybody. For those who have not yet been graded, so to speak, let this not be a sort of a discouragement. Let this be a stepping stone for improving your efficiency, improving your functioning, so that you can match up with the best and make the competition next year even more difficult for the jury. As it is, let me tell you, the jury has had a pretty tough time in making the selection. Well, one could say that the selection is not always without controversy. Of course, there will be some disappointments, there will be some controversies, but that's a part of life. But I would certainly suggest that you make the task of the jury even more difficult next year by going all out to ensure that everybody in the legal fraternity does a good, if not a better job. Thank you very much, and all the best to everybody.
Thank you so much, Justice Lokur, for your insights. Up next is our category, the top managing partner. Well, a good managing partner is the powerhouse of an organization and can be identified by a flourishing business and a robust workforce. Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 recognizes the phenomenal leadership shown by managing partners that has led to impressive law firm performances. I now announce the top managing partner list open. And here are the shortlisted winners. Congratulations to all of you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to reveal the winners of our last category for tonight. The biggest of them all, it's the top individual lawyers category. As independent practitioners, advocates, advisors, members of the bar, they influence the functioning of the country's legal industry and contribute to the evolution of law. Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 recognizes the country's top individual lawyers for their exemplary work over years. Ladies and gentlemen, here is the list of the winners of Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020, the top individual lawyers. With that, it's a wrap on the first edition of Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020. It's been a fantastic evening, and the credit for this goes to each one of you who has taken out the time to join us today virtually for this event. But before we sign off, I'd like to invite Karan Kalia, who's the founder and CEO of Legitquest, to give us a closing address.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank Forbes India Group for giving me this opportunity to give a thanks note in the first edition of the Forbes India Legal Powerlist 2020 in association with Legitquest. The event was held to identify and felicitate India's lawyers, law firms, general counsels, managing partners, in-house counsels, and law schools who exemplify distinction, quality service delivery, and demonstrate superior leadership, reputation, stature, and profile. I congratulate the finalists who have made it to this power list. They truly deserve to be called as the powerful performers in the legal arena in India. On behalf of Legitquest and Forbes India Networking Group, I would like to thank all the participants who have made it to the list and also others for their valuable time and effort they have put in to fill their nominations. If you have not made it to the list, kindly do not get disheartened. In the coming months, we would announce the beginning of nominations for the Power List 2021. I would personally like to thank Forbes India Group for providing their complete support for the event, and with that also our team Legitquest, which has put extra working hours in managing, resolving issues, taking care of the concerns, and communicating with the lawyers and law firms across the country. In the end, my personal thanks to our advisory board members, especially Justice Honorable Justice Lokur, Honorable Justice Sikri, and Senior Advocate Mr. Venkat Shamni for their unconditional support. I'll see you all very soon. Thank you so much. All the very best.